Hey, can somebody give me a thumbs up if they can hear me loud and clear? If not, I can rearrange this microphone. You guys hear me all right? Anybody? Thumbs up? Let me know you can hear me. Might not be able to hear me yet. All right. Is it loud and clear, or do I need to move the mic so you guys can hear me? Loud and clear. All right. Cool. All right. Let's get started. I got to spend some time with my little one, rejuvenate my soul, which was awesome. It's been too long, far too long, and so forgive me for my absence. I needed to spend some time with her, which was fantastic. There's nothing that rejuvenates my soul more than being with my little one, and it's a spiritual thing that I can't even put into words. I'm so blessed to have had her put in my life by the Heavenly Father. It was what tamed the beast, the wild man, because I was untamable, so I thought. And God said, I got other plans for you, buddy. I can tame you. Whether you know it or not, whether you're willing to admit it or not, I'll tame you. I'll change your life forever. And he did. So, let's get started here. I'm going to explain to you, to the best of my ability, how the banking system works, and it was never rebutted in the court, ever. It was one of the documents they didn't want to touch, they didn't want to go over, and there's good reason for it. So let's get started. State of Nebraska in the, let's just use Custer County Court for Custer County City of Broken Bow Incorporated versus Derek S. Gonzalez. This is a letter rogatory for relief under the Hague Convention, Title 18, subsection 1781. Now, when we're in equity, I'm not using things like this. I might draw up the Hague Convention. I might draw some inferences off some of the commentary within these documents, but I may never use any of these titles, okay? The titles are going to draw you right back out of equity. But again, this was me just trying to make a poignant point on what we were doing in the court that day. And again, this one has not been submitted to Broken Bow or anything, and I won't submit it there. I don't need to. But I just want to help you guys see what's really going on. Derek Shaitan Gonzalez, a living man and executor of the Derek Gonzalez Sestake Trust, notice this court of my letter rogatory in the county of, the court of, and demand my name be cleared of this alleged criminal case for the reasons set forth below. 1. I, Derek Gonzalez, have learned that the alleged court that has scheduled a case cause claim against me is not really a court, as per the Constitution of the United States of America, not an Article III court, but rather a military tribunal under Admiralty jurisdiction, and is operated as a private for-profit corporation listed on Duns and Bradstreet. Okay? Now keep in mind, nobody disclaimed this when I put it on the record. And I didn't put this on the record in Broken Bow. I need to be very, 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 very clear with you guys. This was in a case in Valley County, Nebraska, okay? And nobody, I mean nobody, attempted to rebuke or rebut any of this, okay? I have learned of the fraud that goes on behind the scenes of these alleged criminal cases, which are really civil claims in equity, and the steps taken to securitize these civil claims without giving full disclosure to the people. I am hereby letting the court know that I am opting out of any contract and do not allow any documents regarding me or my Sestake Trust to be securitized and sold to any investor, etc. As you may be fully aware, the fraudulent process is as follows. All cases are civil, though often fraudulently called criminal. The courts are operating under trust law, assuming the defendant is a decedent civiliter mortis. After finding the alleged defendant guilty, the court clerks sell the judgment to the federal courts. Since the defendant is a decedent, presumed to be a ward of the court, incompetent and of unsound mind, the court officials consider themselves as beneficiaries as the powers that be, international bankers, have concocted a reverse trust scheme on we, the American people, who are supposed to be the beneficiaries because we are the actual creditors. Okay? When a judge asks if a person understands, she is asking if the person is liable for the bond. I am not responsible for the bond of these cases, but I will appoint the judge as trustee fiduciary under the Power of Appointment Act of 1951 and be the beneficiary of all the proceeds. The judgments are stamped with something to the effect of pay to the order of on the back, taken to the federal discount window. The judgment now becomes a note. The notes are then pooled together and then become securities, which are yet pooled together and sold as bonds. And I believe that is incorrect. They're pulled together and sold as bonds. I think they're pulled together and sold as a group of securities. Said bonds are liens against me, a defendant in error. Okay, why is it a defendant in error? It's a defendant in error because the misspelling and misappropriation of the name. However, it is identity theft because they're using certain things such as the social security number, the birth certificate, etc. Okay? And those aren't me. Those are the estate for which I am the beneficiary of. The United States Attorney's Office has a PUT code, okay? A PUT code number, a QSIP, Community on Uniform Securities Identification Process, and an NAICS code, which is a North American Identification Security Classification, and said NAICS number enables the United States Attorney's Office to trade globally all securities. All right, I'm going to lay it down thick for you guys today. All U.S. federal courts are registered with the DOD, the Department of Defense. Okay, this is why when they were trying to walk all over me on child support, I immediately called the DOD and told them to drop their cocks and grab their socks. I'm tired of the blatant tyranny that's going on here. You either come down here and do your fucking job, or I'll do your job for you, and cleaning up after me is going to be messy. They immediately took action, and the alleged administrator was forced to recuse herself, okay? Where they are registered with the CCR, Contractors Central Registration under the DOD, which another department called DLIS, Defense Logistics Information Service, which issues a CAGE code, which means a commercial and government entity, which everything corresponds with their bank account, all right? Said United States Attorney's Office and courts have a DUNS number, Duns and Bradstreet. Everything filed into a court is securitized without the knowledge of or the consent of the people or of all the parties involved. All criminal cases not heard in an Article 3 court, District Court of the United States are actually civil. However, the courts again commit fraud by labeling the cases as criminal, even for an infraction as minimal as a parking ticket. All cases which are pled out or have a guilty conviction label the civil defendants through unlawful conversion as felons when they are not. This is fraud upon the people at large, and certainly fraud upon the alleged defendants in error. The bank account is a Federal Reserve Bank of New York, in New York City, which happens to also be the capital of the world. Ladies and gentlemen, pay attention. The depository agreement is signed by the clerk of the court. Remember the clerk of the court telling me the other day that she does have a check for me? She does have a check. I failed to ask whose name was on the check. We won't be making that mistake again because I firmly believe that is my property. All right? All securities are then deposited with the DTC in New York. An escrow agent is used as a go-between between the clerk's office and the Federal Reserve Bank of New York. The securities end up being listed through the 7th Circuit, Chicago, Illinois, then sent to the DTCC, the clearinghouse whom lists the securities for trading. All of the lawyers involved are acting as private debt collectors. This is why the Fair Debt Collection Practice Act could help you in these situations if you read Title 15, 1692 and learn the language and learn who you really are. According to the FDCPA, Title 15, 1692, the Bar Association exempts them from having to be registered as such. However, they operate through call warrants, okay, which are like a put, P-U-T, or a call. Doing margin calls is where they convert a case through, similar to a writ of execution, use the case number to buy equity securities. Everything filed into a court case is securitized and turned into negotiable instruments, and then turning them into securities. These items are sold commercial items, calling them distressed debts, unifund. The items are then pooled together in what is now called a hedge fund, where they are sold globally. Anytime when there is risk management involved, it is for the securities. This is an underwriting company. When the hedge funds are going into the global market, they go through Luer Hermes, L-U-E-R, Hermes, H-E-R-M-E-S, a bondholder and underwriter company and subdivision of Alliance SE of Munich, Germany, PIMCO bonds, okay? After 9 months, all paper is converted to a security status. Remember, they're bonds, but anything that matures over 9 months automatically is a security, okay? This is defined in Title 15, subsection 77A, B, 1, and now considered to be an investment contract. The paper is endorsed to become a security, and the trust is then collapsed. The courts have an account with the IMF, International Monetary Fund, under Interpol. The judges involved and the U.S. attorneys involved do not have an accessible oath of office. Article 6 of the Constitution, as well as USC Title 4, 101. They don't meet the criteria of having a valid oath of office, okay? They're unjustly enriching themselves. They're lying, looting, pandering, thieving bastards, stealing from the American people under the guise that they have some type of authority, when really, in reality, they're acting in bad faith, operating under color of authority, which means the appearance and resemblance of authority, but yet having none. Because they cover up the fact that the oath of office is between them and the IMF. The U.S. judges and attorneys are actually employees of the IMF and expatriated out of the United States. They are now unregistered foreign agents under Title 22, which states all foreign agents must be registered. These hypocrites don't even adhere to their own codes. Now, that's found in the Foreign Registration Act of 1938, amended in 1939. Okay? And coincidentally, the Foreign Registration Act was created after 1933, when we know that they had converted everything over and taken all our gold for all intents and purposes, which was codified and finalized in 1971 when they completely removed us from the gold standard. All right? The court judgments are deposited with the IMF. Since the case obviously involves me, I have a drawing to all proceeds. See USC subsection 3-305 and 3-306. The court judgments are monopolized according to Title 16, which is a violation of antitrust laws and also unfair trade practices, along with using deceptive forms as well. Indictments are true bills, okay? So when you're being indicted by a grand jury, that is a true bill, meaning that they are negotiable instruments. The district attorney failed to give me a 1099 OID showing me as the recipient of the funds, which is a fraud upon me. In my case, I have not been indicted, but I still request a 1099 OID unless the court wishes to close this account. The unlawful funds, through fraud and deception, are deposited into the Federal Reserve Bank of New York, and they have not paid the taxes on the income. According to the IRC, this is a subsection 7201 of Title 26 violation, willful failure to file with the intent to evade taxes. Okay? They're tax evaders. A copy of the depository resolution agreement was not made available to me from the clerk of the court. The clerk of the court makes deposits into the Federal Reserve Bank of New York via electronic fund transfer. Remember the other day when I was asking her if she had completed an EFT, electronic fund transfer, and she's like, well, I don't know what you're talking about. I wish I knew. And I'm thinking to myself, well, you scanned it in. What'd you do with it when you scanned it in? Did you email it? Did you send it somewhere? What did you do? Come on, Karen. I just need to know. Karen, you should have the answer to this. Who did you forward it on to? You didn't just scan it in to make a digital file for no reason, because under the Paper Reduction Act and the electronic fund transfer change in 2017, I know full on well what you're doing. The clerk has a PMIA, private money investment account. Okay, all clerks of the court have a PMIA, private money investment account, which also has a government code. According to the clerk's praxis, the clerk of the U.S. District Court is the registrar in admiralty. Okay. According to the IRS, subsection 6209 decoding manual and the ADP automated data processing manual, all 1099s are class 5 gift and estate taxes. Do you realize that filling out your 1040 form is actually a gift and estate tax alleged to be gifted to Britain? So where are your taxes going and why? And why haven't you been told about the 1041 form? All right. I am asking for a 1099 OID in this case, and I am not willing to gift you the proceeds. I am hereby asking for the proceeds in their entirety, including interest. Rights, titles, interest, dividends, derivatives, debentures, hediments, general tangibles, general intangibles, chattel, security, trust residue, trust residuals, baggage and effects, and rents. Rents, ladies and gentlemen, for using my good name without my consent and profiting from it, and I want it all. I want it all. And I know this is Chinese for a lot of you guys, but the reason I continue to do these videos is to help you skyrocket in your ability to retain what I'm talking about. All right, I don't have to do these videos. I don't need to be public. In fact, many of my friends on the private side are like, Derek, they're gonna shoot your stupid ass. Stop what you're doing. You're not supposed to be freeing the slaves from the plantation. Stop. Frick, for the love of God, please stop. I'm not gonna stop. I don't anticipate they're gonna make me a martyr, but I'm never gonna stop, because the fact of the matter is, you guys all deserve to know what's really going on. Okay. It is presumed that by the creation of the birth certificate, my body, and the birth certificate is really a bailment certificate, and I'm the bailer, and the United States being the bailee, and thus everything belongs to me. They're holding legal title, and I hold the equitable title, all right? And then we just have to merge legal and equitable titles through the doctrine of merger and collapse assess the K, and everything, rights, titles, interest, dividends, derivatives, debentures, hediments, general tangibles, general intangibles, chattel securities, trust residuals, trust residue, rents, baggage, and effects shall be returned to I to make I, a man, whole, the beneficiary, whole. Now, I don't care if they put it all back into the trust estate. That's fine. But what I do need is a master accountant to be placed over top of the estate and do a full accounting and an audit to know what dividends are headed my way. I don't mind making those guys the fiduciary trustee and handling it under the Power of Appointment Act of 1951. In fact, that would be so much better for me, because now I can go fishing. Now I can go create memories with my daughter. Now I can build in-ground greenhouses next to nursing homes and connect the youth and the elders in union over good food and giving them something to do and giving the youth a place to connect with our elders, because that's really the disconnect here. We need to get back to communicating with our elders, because the history books are written by liars, all right? Because the real men and women that know the history are dying at a phenomenal rate down at nursing homes, which are really for-profit private prison systems, because once you get into one of them joints, you can't get out to even have a beer, which is an atrocity. And I know this with firsthand knowledge, because my mother used to work at one of those joints, and I used to try and take the people out to go have a beverage because they wanted to, and she'd go, I can't let you do that. You're going to get me fired. You're going to get me in trouble. You can't just take that. I said, is he guilty of a crime? Is this a prison? I mean, he's paying $7,000 a month and he can't go 2 blocks over and have a beer at Frogger's in Greeley, Nebraska? This is insanity. The man's coherent. He can walk. He worked for law enforcement for 40 plus years in the middle of New York during the Dick Tracy era, if you will. And the man can't go have a beer? A beer? That's all he wants is a beer? And she says, Derek, I can't let you walk out of here with him. And she goes, and you know, I can't stop you, but at the same time, I'd be forced to call law enforcement on you. I am responsible for him. You know, he's a ward of the state. I can't let him out of here. So I said, here's the deal. I'm going to go over to Frogger's and I'm going to grab a 12-pack and we're all going to have a beer in here then. And she goes, you know what? I don't have a problem with that. If those grown men want to have a beer and you're willing to facilitate that, so be it. But I cannot allow you to take them out of here. Can't do it. Can't do it. So we need to find a way to connect the youth with our elders, because our elders, the stories they tell, the things they lived, the things that they witnessed with firsthand perfected knowledge, okay, are way different than what you read in the history books. I'll tell you that right now. And I've grown up in nursing homes my entire life, and perhaps that's why I am the way I am, because the stories they used to tell me are nothing like what I read in the history books that the legislators began to infiltrate and take over. All right, moving on. It is presumed that by the creation of the birth certificate, my body and the labor therefrom is pledged to the state. This is patently absurd, as this unilateral quasi-contract is lacking in full disclosure to the parents who made the original trust deposit. I have never pledged my rights nor my body, any labor thereof, nor any creation therefrom, to any gifting program, including any court or court process. I am not a charitable organization. I demand all funds from the case, current and past cases, be sent to me within 30 days, or I will file complaints to the IRS and SEC, Securities Exchange Commission, the Internal Revenue Service, explaining the fraud and the theft upon me, and issue a 1099 OID. I demand my name and my Cestui Que Trust name, Derek Gonzalez, or Derek, and any derivatives thereof, be removed from any of and all government databases indicating bad credit, commercial liens, and or the titles of criminal, felon, and or debtor be removed immediately and permanently, non pro tunc. I hereby request a copy of the depository resolution agreement from the clerk of the court and a W-9 from the judge and the U.S. attorney involved. If you wish to proceed with this case, I hereby notice the court that I am the executor of the Cestui Que Trust of Derek Gonzalez, or Derek, according to Title 26, subsection 303 and subsection 7701. Companies, corporations, and associations and trusts are all decedents. This means my all capital letter name is a legal estate. My all capital letter name falls into this class. I direct all of the affairs and financial affairs of Derek Gonzalez, or Derek, and estate. I demand this case amount be closed and no further steps taken to securitize it. I hereby ask the court, as my fiduciary and trustee, to notify local agents and agencies to put me on the do not disturb or detain list so that we do not have to go through this again. Additionally, explain facts of the case and any violation of the color of law by whom involved. I want to remain confident that the court and its officers want to follow the law, and perhaps were unaware of the process of civil and criminal cases, and that the public policy enforcers are ignorant of the aforementioned facts regarding their often erroneous administration of the Cestui Que Trust. I expect no further harassment from rogue, unregistered foreign agents and public policy enforcers acting under color of law. All right? And then it just goes on to being autographed and the place where the mailing can be received. All right? Now we're going to get into memorandum of law with points and authorities on sovereignty of the people. And sovereignty, ladies and gentlemen, just means that you're not in debt. That's what sovereignty really means. And we all became sovereign when Jesus Christ made a conscious decision to sacrifice himself for all sins and debt being synonymous, okay? And so in order to enjoy sovereignty, you must not be the debtor. I am not a debtor. I am not an indentured servant of the United States. I am not an enemy belligerent combatant of the United States. And at the same token, in order for the United States to claim that they're some superpower sovereign, they have to be debt-free as well. And they're not. They're not. Okay? They're swimming in debt. So for them to allege they're sovereign is really quite comical. On sovereignty of the people in relation to government of the several compact de facto states and the federal government. This is from Derek Satan Gonzalez, and I gave my address. I give an address without a zip code, without the United States, okay? And that brings me to my next topic. The United States actually has 24 definitions. If that isn't vague and ambiguous, I don't know what the hell is. But how could you possibly know what United States they're talking about when a guy from Princeton did a review? He did what do they call it, a thesis, I think, on the United States, and found conclusively that there were 24 different definitions for the United States. Okay? Now, I want you to think about this. It used to be the Army of the United States of America, and now it's the United States Army. Do you see how the Jesuits just tweak it a little bit so you can't quite put your head around what they did? Those words being manipulated and changed the entire part of the charter and revamped it and revised it. So the people that are in the military today think that they're working for the United States of America, when in all actuality it's no longer the Army of the United States of America. It is now the U.S. Army, or the United States Army, which is not the same thing. Dissimilar things should not be joined, and similar is definitely not same. Okay, so I hope that you're paying attention to what I'm telling you, because I'm just trying to give you the eyes to see, the equitable eyes to see, and the ears to hear. That's my objective. That's my goal, because with learned people involved in this, we can change things for the better. I'm not a crazy crackpot nut. I've won 14 cases now. I know why the prosecutor is being belligerent, being an enemy. He's trying to get me to act in dishonor. All I want to do is remain an honorable man, settle this affair, balance the books both on the public and the private side, zero out the counts, and I want my rights, titles, interest, dividends, derivatives, debentures, hediments, general tangibles, general intangibles, chattel securities, trust residuals, trust residues, rents, baggage, and effects. I want it all. That's it. And that's why they're being so violent. That's why they're trying to get me to be dishonorable. Everybody said, whoa, you should have just punched him in the face or elbowed him. Trust me, I'm quick. And in a situation like that, I just as soon just take somebody's eyeball. It's so easy to end a fight, especially when they want to walk like this, okay, and talk like this. It's so easy to go, whoop, got your eye. Thank you. I'll take that. You know, so there's no need to be dishonorable, okay? Because we are winning, and the fact is, the only reason they're being violent is because we're winning. So they're looking for us to become an enemy belligerent combatant of their association so they can have gun-toting morons come running over there, pepper spray, beat, tase you, and possibly euthanize you right there on the spot. That's what they're looking to do. Now, the proof's in the pudding. I turned in the documentation, which should have effectually made it so Stephen Robert Bowers was arrested. I haven't heard anything about it. Isn't that amazing, ladies and gentlemen? I just went to Ohio because a woman talked to an officer, had a moment of PTSD and a vivid dream, and woke up literally thinking somebody beat her when in fact nobody had touched her. She recanted her statement, but the statement that she had made to the officer was enough for him to go ahead and make up an affidavit, which led to an arrest warrant, which is insanity. It was all based on hearsay. She signed nothing. She didn't create an affidavit. They had absolutely nothing. And they went and arrested this man. Now, I have an actual legitimate claim with video, audio evidence, and nothing's been done. Isn't that amazing, ladies and gentlemen? Wow. Wow. But we're going to get into that a little bit later. To whom these presents shall come, greetings, take notice that it is well understood fact of American history that most that the most dynamic document that set the course of the America is the Declaration of Independence. Is the document that disclosed the tyranny of the English government. It expressed the elements of the rights of men within any society and that all men are created equal, okay? An equal protection of the law because we're all created equal. Nobody's above the law. And it presupposes that if there are people above the law, then there really isn't law. This is what we would call a dictatorship or a monarchy. All right? The Declaration of Independence stipulated the chain of authority within governments and of the obvious fact that the people created government. Okay, the power to create can never be greater than the Creator. I am not more powerful than the Heavenly Father. Although I have the power to create and I have the power to destroy, my power will always be inferior to our Heavenly Father, never, ever misconstrued to be superior, okay? So if man created government, then government is inferior to man and man is superior. And man still has a moral obligation to follow and do the good works of the Heavenly Father, to ensure tranquility within our communities. Created government. That is what the people who instituted government, and in so doing, the people secured these rights. And that government at every level derives their just powers from the consent of the governed. All right? It's also a well-established fact that the people did not give up all of their power, if they gave up any power at all, to governments. The Declaration of Independence created the sovereignty in the people, not in the governments. Therefore, and I gotta correct this misnomer, because the Declaration of Independence did not create the sovereignty in the people. Your Heavenly Father created the sovereignty in the people, okay? So I just need to, these are documents that were written a long time ago, and there needs to be some adjustments made, because as I ascend to the mind, I go through these older writs, and I realize that I made palpable errors that need to be corrected. Not in government. Therefore, the people are above the creatures they created, government. And it tells us that we have dominion over everything that creepeth on the earth. All the creatures. Well, man created some creatures, and we need to make sure that they are not insubordinate and that they're back in line. They created government, and that those who work in governments are public servants. Am Jurisprudence 63 Charlie 2D, all public servants are in fact trustees of the American people and have placed themselves in a subservient position to serve the people within their function, office, position via their oaths of office. Article 6 of the United States Constitution, as well as USC Title 4, subsection 101. Okay? Oaths of office. Very important. Along with a supporting affidavit within 30 days of taking it, alongs to it. We need to know their intent. We need to know that they're serious about it. In regards to the principle established in the Declaration of Independence and the subsequent Constitution written and created after it, and of the true sovereignty, a written Constitution is not only the direct and basic expression of the sovereign will, it is also the absolute rule of action and decisions for all departments, arid office of government, with respect to all matters covered by, in, and proceeding after it, and it must control as it is written until it is changed by the authority which established it, which would be who, ladies and gentlemen? Not Congress, not the legislator, not the judiciary. Guess who? Us. Thank the Heavenly Father. We are in control. The people. For reference, see State X Rail, Crenshaw versus Joseph, 175, Alabama, 579-57, SO period 942. Schmidt versus F.W. Cook, Brewing Co., 187 MD 623, 120 NE 193 ALR 270. Collins versus Martin, 209 PA, 388 139 A 122 55 ALR 311. Travelers Insurance Co. versus Marshall, 124, text 4576 SW2D 1007, 96 Air 802, State XRD. Lemon versus Langlil, Langlie, 45 Washington 2D 82273, page 2D 464. Now, people get mad at me that I read all that, and I just do it to help you guys look up what I'm referencing, okay? And take notice of the following cases and points. For whenever the revolution took place, the people of each state became themselves sovereign. Martin Etalv versus the Lease of Waddell, Waddell, 1342, 41 U.S. 16 PET 670, 367, 410, 10, LED 997, 101, 3. All right? The state constitution is the supreme law written by the supreme power of the state, the people themselves. Okay, we find that in Ohio. I'm not going to read all the cases. The Constitution is the voice of the people speaking in there, and it must be heeded. When the Constitution speaks with reference to the particular matter, it must be given when the Constitution effect as the paramount law of the land. Sovereignty itself is, of course, not subject to the law, for it is the author and source of the law. But in our system, while sovereign power are delegated to the agencies of government, itself remains with the by whom and for whom all governments exist and acts. And the law is the definition and limitations of power. Yick Wo versus... Oh, Lord have mercy. I don't have it in there. It's Yick Wo versus something. I'm going to presume and assume the United States, but don't presume and assume anything. It's 118 U.S. 356. Okay? Under our system, the people who were there in England called are here their rights, whether collective or individual, are not bound to give away to a sentiment of loyalty to the person of a monarch. The citizens here in America knows no person. However, in years to those in power, or however powerful himself to be, to whom he need yield the rights which the law secured to him. United States versus 106 U.S. 196 at 208. Here in America, sovereignty rests with the people. Okay? It is true that the English common law, the duty of the Attorney General was to represent the king, he being the embodiment of the state. But under the democratic form of government now prevailing, the people are king, so the Attorney General's first duty are to the sovereign rather than to the machinery of government. Hancock versus Alcron. Local laws or ordinance enacted by cities must be consistent with the state constitution, which they so often never are. It is the duty of all officials, whether legislative, judicial, executive, administrative, or ministerial, to so perform every official act as not to violate constitutional provisions. Montgomery versus the state in Florida, 55 Florida, 9745 SO period 879. The provisions of the Constitution must be given effect even if in doing so a statute is held to be inoperative. State X Rail West versus 70 Florida 102 69 SO 77-1. Every department of the government, courts should not tolerate or condone disregard of law and arbitrary usurpation of power on the part of any officer, and neither should the people. X10 Oklahoma CRIM 284 163 page 197 and CAS 191 6A 522. The officers of the law in the execution of process are obliged to know the requirements of the law, and if they mistake them, whether through ignorance or design, and anyone is harmed by their error, they must respond in damages. Roster versus United States, use of Rogers versus Conklin, Iwall, U.S. 64417 L period ED 714, emphasis added. It is a general rule that an officer, executive, administrative, quasi-judicial, ministerial, or otherwise, who acts outside the scope of his jurisdiction and without authorization of the law may thereby render him amendable to, if a public officer authorizes the doing of an act not within the scope of his authority, he will be held liable, okay? In our country, the people are sovereign and the government cannot serve its relationship to the people. In common usage, the term person does not include the sovereign, and statutes employing it will ordinarily not be construed to do so. Since in common usage, the term does not include a statute not implying the phrases are ordinarily construed to exclude it. United States... I really got to go back and fix this after I converted it. This is horrible. Where rights secured by the Constitution are involved, there can be no rulemaking of legislation which would abrogate them. Miranda versus Arizona. The Congress cannot revoke the power of the United States, okay? There is no such thing as power of inherent sovereignty in the government of the United States. In this country, sovereignty resides in the people, and Congress can exercise no power which they have not by their Constitution entrusted to it. All else is withheld. Juilliard versus the U.S. 110-42-1. All that government does and provides legitimately is in the pursuit of duty to provide protection for private rights. Private core rights. Judicial private core rights, which supersedes the DOD. In fact, the DOD and the Department of State have a duty and an obligation to protect your private core rights. But you have to let them know who you are first. That by default, you're automatically defaulted to a citizen status, the status of a person, the status of a U.S. citizen, an enemy belligerent combatant, a ward of the state, a person of unsound mind. You're automatically diminished to that status until you assert yourself and let them know who you are. That was the Act of 1666. Everybody's presumed and assumed to be lost and dead at sea until they come forward to the proper authorities and assert their rights and let them know, hey, I'm not lost, I'm not dead, I'm the age of majority, I'm competent, I'm of sane, sound mind, I'm not an enemy, belligerent combatant, and I appreciate you being a trustee under 63 Charlie and Jurisprudence 2D, and I'm here for my rights, titles, interests, dividends, derivatives, debentures, hediments, general tangibles, general intangibles, chattel securities, trust residue, trust residuals, baggage effects, and rents. I'm here. I'm home. Lucy, I'm home. Knock, knock, anybody here? Yeah, I just need you to make sure that you protect my unalienable rights at all cost. That means if you have to rally up the troops and go down to one of these Article 1 military tribunals and use the provost marshal to put the judge in jail, I'm authorizing it. You're good to go. Lock, stock, and barrel. I'll give the order. We'll get a hold of the Department of State. We'll let the Department of State get a hold of the DOD, do the chain of command thing. The DOD can get a hold of the Provost Marshal in the state of Nebraska, and he can come on down here, march on down with the troop, and go ahead and arrest these cronies, all right? Or you can appoint the bailiff to do it, all right? The bailiff has some special training, and the bailiff, if you know who you are, can absolutely effect a citizen's arrest and arrest whoever the hell is in breach of their contract. Or your unalienable rights. But I'm going to yield on this. This is a 7-page document. It's a memorandum of law. It goes into it, and it's very beautiful. What I really came on here today is to tell you at 5 o'clock Nebraska time, 4 p.m. Mountain time, I've got a gentleman that's going to be joining me on Zoom. And I only got room for 100 of you, okay? If donations come in, I'll kick up the Zoom room to 1,000 people, but I got to be able to pay for it in order to hold a Zoom room that holds 1,000. And I think there's 1,000 people out there that would love it. Unfortunately, I just don't have the funds for it right now. But I do have room for 100. So what we're going to do is we're going to invite you to a Zoom room, at about 4:55. I'm going to put it out on my Facebook wall. Be looking for it. Central Time, 4:55. I'm going to post it. I'm going to open up that Zoom room. I'm going to give everybody a fair and equal opportunity and chance to get into that Zoom room. And we're going to have a guest speaker today, and we'd appreciate if you could kick him a donation, $1, a $5, a $10, a nickel, whatever it may be, out of your heart. And he's going to explain a different side of things to you that he has used to prevail in courts. Okay? And like I said, there are many ways to skin this cat, whether it be UCC, whether it be equity, whether it be trust, whether it be the USC. I've seen people prevail in a number of different ways, a number of different cases. So I don't discard or discredit anything or anybody's way of thinking, because I know that there is more than one way to go at this, because the fraud is so systemic. You can just pick it, you can nitpick at it, and you can just layer by layer pull it apart until the emperor is standing there naked with no clothes, and you're like, ha, got you. Is that my check? Whose name's on that check? What's that piece of paper say? As soon as you get there, as soon as you see it, you can fight like hell, and you can help correct the errors that are happening in your community. And it's our duty. We should be more than proud to do that, okay? And I think that the people in the military are starting to see it as well. The lower rank officers and petty officers are starting to see it, because they're feeling the pressure too. Their friends, their family are all calling them going, what the hell is going on here? I mean, we got Joe Biden in there. He can't articulate a complete sentence. He can't do it. How in the hell and what is going on? We need to know. We need to understand why Wall Street can just, as soon as the little guy starts kicking ass and learning how to jab and punch, all of a sudden, Wall Street goes, oh, sorry, can't trade today. You people. You band together against us? Well, we're just going to put the emergency button on and make sure you guys can't belly up our billionaires that really are fleecing the people of the world. So, today, 5 o'clock Central, 4 p.m. Mountain Time, guest speaker coming on. I think he's going to announce himself as just X. He doesn't want his name out there. That's fine. You're not going to get to see a picture of him. But he is going to, he's going to bring forward some very hard-hitting information. And when I heard it, it was just music to my ears, and we just started laughing and going back and forth for hours about different juxtapositions and what I had that would help him and what he had that I was receiving that was helping me. And he goes, what do you think? And I was like, it's brilliant. We need to do a show with some people and help everybody ascend the mind. So again, 5 o'clock Central Time, 4 p.m. Mountain Time. We will be getting on Zoom. I've got room for 100. Okay, that's what it is. So first come, first serve. I'm not playing favorites. If you get kicked out, if you lose connection or whatever and somebody else fills your spot, I apologize. That's just how it is. And we'll go from there. So I'll see you guys today at 5 o'clock. And in closing, we're going to do something really important here. Article 3 of the Constitution, you're always hearing me talk about it. Article 3, subsection 2, subpart 1, right? Now, let's get into it. Article 3. The judicial power, this is section 1, the judicial power of the United States shall be vested in one Supreme Court, and in such inferior courts as the Congress may from time to time ordain and establish. The judges, both of the Supreme and inferior courts, shall hold their office during good behavior, which they're not exhibiting good behavior, ladies and gentlemen. Let's be real clear about that. And shall at stated times receive for their service compensation, which shall not be diminished during their continuance in office. Section 2. The judicial power shall extend to all cases in law and equity. Article 3, subsection 2, subpart 1. I want a qualified chancellor who is qualified to lord over, all right, to assess an Article 3, subsection 2, subpart 1 venue. He needs to be qualified in what I'm speaking of, or he can't hear the matter. He's disqualified. Next. Bring the next one in. You're fired. Sorry, George. You just don't have what it takes. You didn't get enough education, and so you're disqualified. You're fired. It's that simple. Okay. Now let's read on because it gets better. It gets so much better. Okay. In law and in equity, arising under this Constitution, the laws of the United States and the treaties made or which shall be made under their authority to all cases affecting ambassadors, other public ministers and councils, to all cases of admiralty and maritime jurisdiction, to controversies to which the United States shall be a party, to controversies between two or more states, between a state and citizens of another state, between citizens of different states, between citizens of the same state claiming lands under grants of different states, and between a state, or the citizens thereof, and the foreign state, citizens or subjects. In all cases affecting ambassadors, other public ministers and council, and those in which a state shall be party, the Supreme Court shall have original jurisdiction. All right, I'm not going to read any further into that. That right there, that last bit of that sentence, the Supreme Court shall have original jurisdiction. Guess what the federal government is charged with doing? Anybody know? It's protecting your unalienable rights at all cost. That's the duty they've been charged with, okay? Keeping the lower state in check. And really, the state is superior to the federal government. It really is. Because the people vested the power in the state turned around and contracted with the federal government, but the people get the say in it, okay? As soon as you can break free of their jurisdiction that mimics and mirrors what we're really supposed to have. You just got to separate and go, look, I'm not part of that jurisdiction. This is hogwash. Bring the man or woman forward so I can provide remedy. I'm an honorable man. I'm just here to provide remedy to any man, woman, or child that I may have inadvertently caused injury to that I'm unaware of. Is there somebody here today that wants to testify with firsthand knowledge that I've caused them some type of harm? I'd be more than happy to compensate them. I just ended the whole fucking shit show. The controversy's gone. Well, sir, you see, you violated a statute of the Nebraska Revised Statute. Prove how those statutes, code, city ordinances, rules, and regulations apply to I as a man. Just prove it. I'm not saying that statutes sometimes are not moral, but if you could prove just how they apply to me, I'd greatly appreciate it. Can't do it. Can't do it. So anyway, long story short, 5 o'clock Central Time today in Nebraska, we'll be doing a live on Zoom. I'll send it out at 4:55. I'm a man of my word. At 4:55, I will send that out on Facebook. You guys will be able to go through my Facebook wall, find it, and join. The first 100 that join, that's the max capacity I have. So thank you very much for joining me, and we'll see you soon.